run, 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 run.
Machine. I wasn't always just a single shade, a palette full of gray in reverie, and I can burn it brighter than the sun. I have a golden gun inside of me. Don't box me in, don't, or I'll leave. I'd rather be a dreamer, I'd rather be free, I'd rather be a leader, I'd rather be a queen, I'd rather be a singer in a trashy cover band. I'd rather be a closer, I'd rather be clean, I'd rather be a poser in a magazine, I'd rather be pretty much anything else. And if I fall behind, ignoring all the signs, and if I lose the fight, I still rage against the I'd rather be a dreamer, I'd rather be free, I'd rather be a leader, I'd rather be a queen, I'd rather be a singer in a trashy cover band. I'd rather be a closer, I'd rather be clean, I'd rather be a poser in a magazine, I'd rather be pretty.
Welcome to the Monday stream. I hope everyone's having an awesome Monday. Welcome, everybody. I hope everyone had a good weekend. Derry Bennett, Wolf Glenn, Michael Hauser, Jendrick Bender. Welcome, everybody. Next week is the election. Indeed. Next week, folks. Next week or next Monday, we will know. Well, maybe. Next Tuesday. Next Tuesday. Is the official general election. Folks, if you live in some of these swing states, or not swing states, if you're currently under early voting, go do so. Currently, I'm in Georgia, and early voting is still on until November 1st. That's this upcoming Friday. Is the last day for the early voting in Georgia. There are a couple of amendments to pay attention to. If you are in the state of Florida and like 10 others, there's going to be abortion amendments or ballot initiatives. So pay attention to those if you if you are in one of those states. All right, folks, let's get this started. We're going to do a quick and short stream today. This week I'll be mostly by myself, as Mrs. Truth is not here. So I will be by myself this week. Before we get started, folks, a couple of announcements. Thank you for your support. There are many different ways to support the channel if you want to. Please consider checking out the merch store, hitting exclamation mark tip. You can tip your streamer directly. Consider joining the Discord this Halloween, this Thursday. Join us for some spooky movies. Stream will be tentative. It's all by himself too. Bachelor time. Heck yeah. It's just me and the cats. It's me and the cats and my PC games. I've been watching Fallout. I've been catching up on Fallout. It's a pretty freaking good show on Amazon. That's what I've been doing. Mister, welcome. Early voting in New York is through November 3rd. The lines are very long. Yeah, might as well if you need to make a plan, might as well get started or get ready to do your voting by mail or dropping it off. Or if you have to come in person, make sure you got that squared away if you're going to do early voting. I would just take care of that and get your plan going. Fallout is good and so is Agatha. That's definitely on my list. I've heard a lot of good things about it, so got to put that one on the list. I'm almost done with Fallout, so I can scratch some of these shows off my list too. Mouselander, welcome. We've got a few stories to go through.
Trump's hate rally at Madison Square Garden last.
All right, I got everything ready. Let's get it going, chat.
Trump's hate rally at Madison Square Garden last night has backfired considerably, as there have now been some big endorsements for Kamala Harris because of some of the things that were said at that rally. So I'm going to go over this, as well as some reaction from a couple of comedians, as well as a clip to Tony Hinchcliffe and the comments that spurred a lot of what is going on now, or the reaction to it.
It's hard to tell what the YouTube emojis are. I mean, I can see them on the YouTube chat. Like I can see the waving person. I can see that. The elbow cough emoji kind of looks like a dab. It kind of looks like a dab, so that's pretty cool.
So before I get to the endorsements, let me just show you a reminder. So I covered this last night, the day it happened, but let me show you again just this quick clip of Tony Hinchcliffe and what he said at the hate rally in Madison Square Garden.
A lot going on. Like, I don't know if you guys know this, but there's literally a floating island of garbage in the middle of the ocean right now. Yeah. I think it's called Puerto Rico.
All right, so I went over some of this yesterday, but just quickly here. The fact that Trump delayed $20 billion in aid to Puerto Rico after Hurricane Maria. This is not just some, oh, he's just joking. You are speaking hate at a Trump hate rally. You're preaching to the choir here. So, setting, I think, matters when you try and claim your defense is, oh, just a joke. Not to mention how lazy the joke is. Again, I'll get to some of the reaction from comedians in a bit here. But this led to... First, the Kamala Harris campaign taking advantage of this in the way that they should, comparing her record and what she wants to do to Donald Trump. Saying here, today I released my plan to help build a brighter future for Puerto Rico and the Puerto Rican people as president, which, by the way, it's so interesting that this was happening. Kamala Harris had already announced this, like or she was discussing it the same day that Tony Hinchcliffe was doing this joke. Just a wild, just the timing on this is just wild.
Every commenter was bad last night. the rally. I caught like bits and pieces of it. It's just it was difficult to watch. I'm gonna be honest. Heat coming in hot with a tier 1 sub for 39 months. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Welcome. Yep, yeah, it was freaking hard to watch. It really was. Like, I think I got like a bit of the way in, and I just like I turned it off. I was like, I'm done.
Saying here, meanwhile, Donald Trump's rally, they're calling Puerto Rico a floating island of garbage. So let me play this clip that the Harris campaign shared.
There's a lot going on. Like, I don't know if you guys know this, but there's literally a floating island of garbage in the middle of the ocean right now. Yeah. I think it's called Puerto Rico.
Puerto Rico is home to some of the most talented, innovative, and ambitious people in our nation. And Puerto Ricans deserve a president who sees and invests in...
Also, like, I don't know if he meant to do this. um, I don't know if he meant to do this, but there actually is a plastic island in the middle of the ocean, and I feel like he's also just like pointing like maybe I'm just reading too much into it, but it sounds like also just kind of like mocking like the climate change thing as well, on top of like the racism. That guy isn't funny. No, there's nothing funny about this dude. Not at all.
In that strength. I will never forget what Donald Trump did and what he did not do when Puerto Rico needed a caring and a competent leader. He abandoned the island, tried to block aid after back-to-back devastating hurricanes, and offered nothing more than paper towels and insults. And now Donald Trump promises to be even more extreme, talking about using the military against his political enemies and being a dictator on day one. Puerto Ricans deserve better. As president, I will always fight for you.
The plastic island is off Staten Island, isn't it? I actually don't know. Lowest hanging fruit, racism, and climate change now.
You and your families, and together we can turn the page and chart a new and a joyful way.
Sorry, folks. Give me a second. That was a short stream indeed. Sorry about that. I'm just gonna wait for the ad. I'm just gonna wait for the ads. Just 20 seconds. Why do fascists think punching down is funny? I don't know. Like, that's kind of like the punchline, right? The punchline here is racism. All right, and we're back. Sorry, folks. Sorry about that. Yeah, my bad. I hit the ad button by accident. But it's okay. We're back. Because there's no consequences. That's a good point. And by the way, this guy's history, is pretty consistent. This dude's been like this for years.
Way forward.
So, pretty good way to compare yourself to what happens at a Trump rally. And in addition to that, the Harris account on Twitter also tweeted this out, saying when he was president, Trump insulted Puerto Ricans and left them behind. We are not going back. Going on to say Trump doesn't care about Puerto Rico's prosperity. When he was president, he withheld billions of dollars for Hurricane Maria recovery. He lied about the death toll of Hurricane Maria, while most of Puerto Rico lived without clean water and electricity. He claimed Puerto Ricans want everything done for them and called Puerto Rico dirty and poor. He suggested selling Puerto Rico or trading it for Greenland. He opposed $600 million in additional critical nutrition assistance, and he ensured Medicaid funding.
I actually forgot about that. Jesus Christ.
For Puerto Rico was cut in half. Now, that rally. So before any of this was even, before Harris tweeted this out, the Tony Hinchcliffe comments led to this. Jennifer Lopez, Bad Bunny, Ricky Martin, and more amplify Kamala Harris after Trump rally comedian trashes Puerto Rico. So from what I'm reading, Jennifer Lopez and Ricky Martin already publicly said they were supporting Kamala Harris. Bad Bunny appears to be the one that was, I guess, a new public endorsement of Kamala Harris. But
I'm Kyle, a lifelong Republican. Trump calls Kamala Harris a socialist, but his budget would explode the deficit. Harris has a plan to help people like me without spiking the deficit. I'm voting for Harris in November. She's the right choice.
Who cares about the deficit? Government doesn't work like a business, man.
he has 45.6 million Instagram followers. So he shared a video from Harris's account in which the vice president outlines her vision for Puerto Rico. And so they go on to quote what Harris says in the video. And Puerto Rican artists Jennifer Lopez and Ricky Martin also shared Harris's video on their Instagram accounts, each expressing their support for her. The three artists alone have more than 314 million Instagram followers between them. In addition to that, Luis Fonsi, who is the singer behind Despacito, who has around 17 million followers.
A JLo endorsement might not be the boon they think it is. People hate her right now. The libs still haven't gotten what they should have. Haven't gotten that they should have listened when we said decades ago that rampant capitalism leads to fascism. They still don't get it. It's not just Trump. Yeah, I agree.
On Instagram, tweeted this out, or sorry, on Instagram put this out, saying, I understand comedy. I'm a big fan of it. I love roast. Trust me, I get it. But this is far from comedy. Not now. Not against my island, my people. Hell no. It's okay to have different views, and I respect those who think different than me, but going down this racist path ain't it. I'm so proud to be Puerto Rican, to be Latino. We are not okay with this constant hate. It's been abundantly clear that these people have no respect for us, and yet they want our vote. Oh yeah, and I purposely wrote this in English because yes, we're American too. Please vote. Now, the potential impact here. So Hinchcliffe's comments, this is from Newsweek writing this.
Man, you know what would actually be like the funniest thing that this dude has done? Quite possibly one of the funniest and maybe only funniest things that this dude has done is single-handedly be a catalyst to Trump losing. Okay? Because, like, man, if this ends up actually affecting Trump, because this happened, like, literally on the last week, basically, of the election, and that's still fresh on people's minds, that would be single-handedly the funniest thing that this dude has done. Man. The second funniest thing that this so-called quote-unquote comedian has done is probably hopefully torpedoing his own career by doing this.
They may galvanize Puerto Rican voters who were otherwise disengaged, potentially reshaping voter engagement efforts as the 2024 election looms closer. So 7 battleground states are Pennsylvania, Nevada, Arizona, Michigan, Wisconsin, Georgia, and North Carolina, with Puerto Ricans making up a significant portion of the Latino vote, particularly in Pennsylvania, Arizona, and Georgia. In the latter two, narrow margins decided the 2020 presidential election. These remarks may have far-reaching consequences. So, it's possible a lot of people already support Kamala Harris, or maybe weren't engaged. But point being here, this on some level, considering how close this race is and how close these battleground states are, on some level, this is going to have some impact.
I hope so.
It's going to potentially galvanize some voters in these states.
I freaking hope so. Hey, the simulacra. He'll probably tour with Jim Brewer. Now people are back to being blatant assholes and racist. He can always go on Gutfeld. Yeah, but I mean, like, where is Jim Brewer and these washed out losers nowadays, right? Like, that's it. That's all they've got. That's all they've got. It's like the whatever is left of, like, the MAGA cult is like, that's it. That's the extent of their career. That's where he's gonna end up. That's funny, the simulacra. I was thinking about that earlier. I was like, this dude is going to end up, with the, this dude's going to end up with the washed out, quote unquote, comedians like Adam Carolla, Jim Brewer, Rob Schneider. That's a good point, Xenocide.
To come out to vote when maybe they didn't feel as inclined to. But now that you have one campaign, at least at the rally, just trashing Puerto Rico, it may move some people in a way that they didn't feel moved before. Now, I want to get to, just worth sharing this as well. This is, it's so funny to see Republicans, at least ones in particular states like Florida, for obvious reasons, try and put out this fire. So Rick Scott, one of the more crazy, and not that there really is a difference here because they're all crazy, but Republican senator in Florida, he's up for re-election with over 1 million Puerto Ricans in Florida, saying this joke bombed for a reason. It's not funny and it's not true. Puerto Ricans are amazing people and amazing Americans. Funny, he didn't say anything about all the other garbage that was said at that rally that I also covered yesterday in that video, or about Haitians that's been going on for months with the Trump campaign. Nothing to say about any of that, but he's up for re-election in a state with over 1 million Puerto Ricans. Oh, he's got to come out for this one. Oh, it's very wrong to say this. Where were you before about all the other hate?
Yeah. And it's like the same thing with what the Trump campaign
That's
supposedly
been going on forever.
posted. They say like, oh, I'm paraphrasing, but I'm going to get as close as I can to the exact quote that the senior Trump campaign manager said, that in response to this comedian's remarks, because I'm not gonna call them jokes. Those are not jokes. In response to those comedians' remarks that the Trump campaign, that this doesn't represent Trump or the Trump campaign's feelings, I think is what they said. That's as close as I can get to the literal word for word quote. But like, come on, dudes. You guys hired him for this purpose. Yeah, they can make sitcoms with Kevin Sorbo.
Amazing. Now, let me end on just a few reactions from comedians here. So this is from Tim Smith saying
Did they not have a rehearsal? Oh, they knew exactly what this guy's about. This guy's been like this for years, so like they knew. Oh wait, like, you mean like for damage control? You mean like a way to spin it for damage control? Now they knew. They just didn't know it would go over this bad. Even within their own camp.
Open for Tony Hinchcliffe about 5 years ago before the show. Before the show, the booker of the club walked into the green room, looked at Tony and asked point blank, "You gonna be funny this time?" Tony got incredibly mad, then walked on stage and bombed horribly. Now, look, I can't verify this account. I wasn't there, but I'm seeing some other reactions that from people that had similar experiences. Kamau Bell or Kamau Bell here, another comedian writing, you've got to be joking. So to be clear,
they feed off getting called racist, but not by their own side. Right, like that went too far. Like that went too far even for them, to have like a couple of these like Republican ghouls try to save face and go like, wait, no, wait, that's a little too much. But like again, you know, the freaking like he was hired by the campaign to do these events. So yeah, they made their bed. No comment, chick. They made their bed so they can lie in it. They knew exactly who this guy was, and I would say don't let them escape that.
Tony Hinchcliffe apparently retweeted this Don Rickles clip where he is at, I guess, a GOP rally. He's roasting Reagan. You gotta be joking. Tony Hinchcliffe retweeted this clip as if to say he and Don Rickles are the same. I just watched Tony's whole set. Tony only made fun of the people out of the room, or the people in the room that he's not afraid of. Rickles only made fun of people in the room. Most of Rickles' jokes are making fun of Reagan. All of Tony's jokes are about Trump. About Trump are, as the kids say, glazing him. Tony's biggest response from the crowd are the lines that the crowd perceived as sincere. Like, quote, "I wish football was all year round." Is my personal favorite. So I guess that was supposed to be a joke, and people clapped for it because they thought he was being honest. The spin is spinning. So this
Amazing.
is just. I'm gonna get to again the clip from right here. It's the last thing I'm gonna show you. This is Anthony Jeselnik, who many people, if you've seen his comedy, some people find him offensive. I think he's brilliant. I think he's hilarious. He understands how to do, for lack of a better term here, offensive comedy. Because it's
Yeah, so like just to be clear, like, you know, there's a difference between like so if you're just getting on stage and you're just like passing off like racism as comedy, just and then like try to claim like, oh, you know, I'm just trying to be edgy. No, dude, you're just an a-hole, okay? Like, being offensive for the sake of being offensive is just offensive. You're just an a-hole. That's it. Like, there's no punchline there except racism. So no, that's not being a comedian. Those aren't jokes. You're just being an asshole. Okay? That's it. Yeah, it's lazy. Like, you're just being an a-hole so you can watch all these like MAGA chuds steel clap to the racism. That's it. You know, like there are ways of making a broader point, even if it is on the more edgier offensive side. Like, here's an example. There was an episode of South Park. There's an episode of South Park where Cartman was a slave owner, or he was a slave trader, or something like that, and he was going up to like the head of the college sports division and was basically saying like, hey, how do you keep all your slaves in line? And they had to say like, oh wait, no, you know, they're not slaves, they're athletes. And Cartman's like, yeah, but just let me, yeah, whatever, you just give me the secret. But like, you know, there was an underlying like actual commentary underneath that, because like of the way college sports treats their athletes, right? Like, there's an actual like point there. It's not just racism. The NCAA episode, yeah. Baby fights or whatever it was. Yeah. Yep. And that was a while ago. But that's an example of like how, you know, you could use something that's more edgy and actually make an underlying point about how, you know, an institution functions or whatever. Like in this case, like criticizing like colleges for effectively taking advantage of their athletes who are disproportionately African American. Sock now, welcome. Welcome. There you go. But if you're just gonna be edgy and just like be offensive for the sake of being offensive, that's not comedy, okay? You're just an a-hole. Hope you're okay. What happened? Oh, we're just going over we're just going over the disastrous hate rally that happened yesterday or this weekend.
It's not offensive, but it's the subject matter that may be perceived as offensive if
Oh, I'm muting my throat clearing and coughs.
the jokes were told differently, but the way he's able to construct them, again, he's brilliant. Listen to how he discusses this.
And all these comics now, it's like almost the point is to get in trouble. It's like, why are you giving me shit? I'm a comic. I'm allowed to say whatever I want. That's wrong, as far as I'm concerned. Art.
Oh, wait, say it again so I don't miss it.
People think like, oh, as a comic, your job is to get in trouble. And so, but they don't want to get yelled at. It's like, it's okay to make people mad, but they don't want any pushback. And I think that's wrong. As a comedian, you want to make people laugh.
Thank you.
This is a quote attributed to Andy Warhol that I love. It's just,
Yeah, like comedy isn't like you being an offensive a-hole, right? Like, and then like trying to act like the victim when people are calling you out on it and be like, "Whoa, dude, I'm just being a comedian." Like, I'm just being a comedian. No, man, you're not. Okay.
art is getting away with it. You know, if you put out a special and everyone's pissed, like you didn't get away with it. You know, you need to make everyone laugh that they're like, yeah, he talked about some fucked up stuff, but we're all happy. That's art. Otherwise, you're just a troll.
This is said so well. Like,
Yeah. Otherwise, you're just a troll. I hate that comedian.
what Tony Hinchcliffe does, watch what Tony Hinchcliffe does here in that his set, and compare it to what Anthony Jeselnik does.
This is a great quote. I'm not familiar with their comedy though.
It is night and day. Anthony Jeselnik is actually clever in the way he constructs and writes jokes and the way he delivers them. Tony Hinchcliffe, he had one joke last night at that rally where he sees a black guy in the audience. I guess he's wearing something like on his head. And he goes, "Oh, I just couldn't. That's a friend of mine. We carved watermelons last night for Halloween."
Yeah, like, dude.
That's just racism. There's
Yeah.
no joke there. There's nothing clever about that. That's just, hey, it's racist to connect black people to watermelons, so I'm going to say that. Isn't that funny? Where's the joke? Like, the whole thing came off as a guy who just began stand-up last night.
Yeah,
for the first time.
seriously.
Because none of what he delivered, I watched the whole thing, none of what he delivered was actually clever. It was just offensive for offensive sake. And then people get
Sharecropping, am
angry
I
about
right?
it, and he's like, "Oh, I'm just a comedian. What's the big deal?" Which is literally what he did on Twitter here, responding to AOC and Tim Walz and their reaction to his clip, saying these people have no sense of
Yeah, it's just jokes, dudes. It's just jokes. Everybody needs to chill out. No, man. It wasn't jokes. Where were the jokes, dude? What part of, like, describing a people, a people's land, as a pile of garbage, where was the joke there? Where like, what was the punchline? Like, describe it to me like I'm 5. I'm Puerto Rican myself, and it was terrible. I don't blame you. Of course, it was just nothing but offensive and racist. That's it. And it wasn't even like offensive for any other reason other than just to be offended, just to be offensive. And like what that guy was talking about, what that guy was talking about, he literally proved it in real time. He's like, "Oh, I'm just a comic guy." Like, no, man. No.
humor. Wild that a vice presidential candidate would take time out of his busy schedule to analyze a joke taken out of context to make it seem racist. There's no
Yep, that's right. That's right, Heat. But you've probably already noticed a trend to have low quality shit to get airtime in conservative circles.
other context. You can watch the whole thing. I love Puerto Rico and vacation there.
We did watch the whole thing. Okay? Unfortunately. So, like, these people, man, I'm telling you, these people. So if it was taken out of context, why don't you, what's the context? Put it in context then. So, like, please put it in context where you can describe a people and describe their homeland as a pile of garbage in the middle of the ocean. Where's the context in that? Like, please, feel free to explain that one. It's ironic the anagram for white wasp is also the anagram to white Anglo-Saxon Protestant is wasp. Too edgy. Mi vino es hecho por platino, pero es mi vino. My wine is made from plantain. Oh, plátano. Platino? You guys call it platino, but it's still my wine, and I love my island. Our vacation in the colony I'm mocking isn't the save he thinks it is. Oh, that's not the comedian. I'm sure Jefe enjoys the traditional Red Bull cocktail he orders there.
Some of my best vacations are Puerto Rican. I made fun of everyone. No, he did not. He did not make fun of white people. He did not make fun of Long Islanders. The vast majority of people who are there, like, didn't make fun of racists, didn't make fun of transphobes, didn't make fun of xenophobes. Like, you can't claim I make fun of everyone, but
yeah, I made fun of everyone. You know,
you will offend them.
I made fun of everyone. You know, like I made fun of Puerto Ricans, and then I extended that to all Latinos. Then I also made fun of black people in a crude racist stereotype. I mean, yeah, I made fun of everyone, right? Oh, you're good. Don't worry.
The vast majority of people in that audience. Watch the whole set. I'm a comedian, Tim. It's always great when you have to remind people what you are. Might be time to change your tampon. Again, what a lazy joke. Like, there's not... This man is so lazy. It's one thing to be a comedian and, you know, offend some people and your jokes are clever. His jokes are just, racist thing. That's funny because you're offended. Where's the joke? Wild stuff at the Trump rally, but good to see it backfired. So it may be the funniest thing that Tony Hinchcliffe...
I still want to clip you saying all that. You can go back and clip it. Even lazier than Bill Maher. Sheesh. And that's now that's I guess that's a feat in and of itself. So TLDR, I'm glad there's a lot of backlash to this, and I'm glad that maybe, because like the people that are gonna vote for Trump, they're gonna vote for Trump anyways, and like this isn't gonna stop them. Okay, so just to be clear, like this is not going to stop Trumpers who are dead set on voting for the dear leader. That's not going to stop them. But hopefully it entices, I guess would be the word, negative partisanship against Trump, and maybe for some folks who were undecided, this kind of leaves a sour taste in their mouth as to the kind of people that Trump likes to put on stage. But yeah, like again, this dude is not a comedian. Comedy isn't about being offensive. Being a comedian isn't about crying that people got angry at your racist, offensive remarks. And that's not what comedy is. Okay. And being offensive for offensive for the sake of being offensive is just being an asshole. That's it. Like like I said in the beginning, like the only funny thing that this guy is gonna do is potentially torpedo Trump's chances in a race that's gonna be so freaking close. That's gonna be down to the last wire. Him doing this at this very last like week left to the election, possibly, maybe, hopefully. Enticing negative partisanship against Trump and possibly affecting how people vote for those that may have still become undecided. I don't know. Maybe, hopefully, goes against Trump and torpedoes his chances.
Run. There may be a snake. There could be an alligator.
I'm in Point Comfort on the Gulf Coast in Texas, and there's something dangerous lurking in this water.
Lexi.
Oh, wow. That's all plastic pellets in there. Plastic pellet, plastic pellet, plastic pellet. Microplastics have shown up in the blood, brains, and testicles of nearly every human tested.
Microplastics.
Microplastics are everywhere.
They've been found in almost every organ in the body.
Yep. And they're here to stay, folks.
Eating and drinking more plastic than we might have realized.
Umbilical cord too, I think. It wouldn't surprise me. Like, it's everywhere. I think the last thing that I heard, on average, a person has about a credit card's worth of microplastics that they either that they have or that they consume. Hold on, I'll look it up. Oh man, it's so much freaking worse. Oh man, it's so much worse. Plastics, yep. They found microplastics in subterranean caves. It is everywhere. Yeah, it's literally everywhere. Even in like the Arctic, it's everywhere. Yeah, I regret actually looking up that stat. It's actually worse. The average person consumes about 39,000 and 52,000 microplastic particles per year, depending on age and sex. This is equivalent to about one credit card of plastic per week. And that is likely underestimated. That is per week, not per year. Not per year, per week. Yeah, I actually regret looking up that stat. Whew, it sounded much better in my head when I looked it up a while ago. Bonzilla, welcome.
And you might be likely to blame your own personal behavior for this junk ending up in your body.
Swap out that plastic cutting board.
Plastic is being leached into my coffee.
But it's not all from your cutting board or water bottle. Plants like this one are producing a form of microplastics that are relatively unknown and nearly completely unregulated.
The problem is once they get outside the fence line, they get into the waterway, things can eat them because they look like fish eggs. They absorb the harmful chemicals like PCBs and PAHs, and those are the things that make them hazardous once they're in the environment. Lots of plastic.
So I went to the Texas Gulf Coast, dotted with chemical and plastic manufacturing plants, to figure out how microplastics are ending up in our waterways and ultimately in our bodies. So all those little white dots, those are all pellets.
Pellets.
That's all plastic pellets in there. And why the corporations largely responsible face no repercussions. Plastic was invented in the early 20th century, but didn't become mass-produced until World War II, when America needed to manufacture armaments quickly.
Armament manufacturers immediately turned to plastics for assistance.
But when the war ended, there was all this plastic infrastructure with no war stuff to make, so they had to pivot to consumer goods. And part of that was convincing people during the 1950s that this stuff was normal and natural.
Plastics come from many different raw materials. Some of the materials are natural elements like water and air, with many contributions of the kingdom of plastics designed for practical, gracious living.
Well, some predictions from the 60s were a bit overwrought, like the guy who said plumbers would use so much plastic that they'd be called plasticators. A lot of these early predictions of the future were accurate. You know this, you live in the future. Plastic is everywhere. There's one invention that really shows how the industry operates.
The EasyGoer lightweight plastic bottle for Coca-Cola.
The EasyGoer, the first plastic soda bottle, was introduced by Coca-Cola and Monsanto, the chemical company, in the early 70s. After a quick FDA approval, the EasyGoer was launched in small test markets, and according to this film produced by Coca-Cola, people loved it.
My brother bought some Coke in a plastic bottle and I tasted it and it tastes the same as in a glass bottle.
Tried the plastic bottle and I like the way it tastes.
Love them.
The bottles are made using a chemical called...
Don't y'all feel royal? Royal AF? Monsanto can only mean good things. True. When I think of like a trustworthy company that has people at the center, I think of Monsanto. When I think of a company that has people's health and people's health at the center of what they do, I think of Monsanto.
Acrylonitrile, which studies at the time showed did not leak significant particles into the beverage inside, which is important because acrylonitrile is a carcinogen when consumed.
Only from your Coca-Cola bottler.
Just 2 years after the...
Nice. Cool. Very cool. And Boeing, yeah. Another company that is synonymous with trust and safety.
Test run launched, the FDA rescinded approval. The amount of migration of particles from bottle to contents wasn't safe. The bottle was banned.
I like it very much. I have a youngster 5 and I feel safe that he has the Coke in the plastic bottle.
The FDA approved the safety of acrylonitrile bottles using testing data from Monsanto, who made the bottles. The FDA did no testing of their own during the approval process. Obviously, bottles don't use acrylonitrile plastic anymore, but the Coke Monsanto story shows how the chemical industry manipulates facts and regulators to push things that we don't fully understand yet out into the world as quickly as possible. From 1950 to today, plastic production went from 2 million tons a year to 450 million tons. Along the way, we see something familiar pop up. In a 1965 congressional hearing, a mention of the waterway between Connecticut and Massachusetts, about where the Monsanto plastic plant was. Strange plastic pellets emerging in the water. To find out how this plastic's getting into our water and everything else, I went to the Gulf Coast of Texas, which has the highest concentration of plastic production plants in America. So always looking for the round ones, right? Or like the little guys, yeah.
Right. So I got 3 already.
This is Jace Tunnell, a leading expert on the ecology of the Gulf of Mexico at Texas A&M Corpus Christi. Jace spends a lot of time looking for those little plastic pellets I mentioned earlier. He runs the Nurdle Patrol, a project for citizen scientists around the world to go out and search for nurdles and report their findings, so Jace's team can discover trends. Sorry, I just kind of threw the word nurdle at you.
Yeah, nurdles is a plastic pellet, and so they're about the size of a lentil, and it's actually the raw material to make everything plastic.
They're individually small, but they're the second largest source of plastic pollution worldwide. Jace's first foray into nurdle hunting showed something shocking.
So in 2018, I was at the beach and looked down at the high tide line, and that's usually where you just see sticks, leaves. That's where you look for seashells. But when I looked down there, there was solid plastic pellets in there.
At the time, Jace thought the nurdles he found were from some major spill. He called the Coast Guard and a state agency responsible for regulating things like this, but instead of doing anything about it, they basically told Jace to figure it out himself. And what Jace found was much worse than just one big spill.
Each facility has a different extrusion plate that makes the shape and size of the nurdles. And then the color difference. So like the yellower the color, the longer it's been into the environment. So once you look back at the sample that we have taken during that initial spill, we now know that 99% of those nurdles were all different. And it could be, 200 to 300 nurdles. And if all of those are different, that is literally 200 to 300 different spills that had occurred. And it really shows that there's a chronic problem with nurdles.
So just to translate, good, we need fire under the feet of Puerto Rico. They will. They really want badly Puerto Rico to be dominated and move more resources from the island. Yeah, I mean, it's a colonial. It's a colony. Are they not the product of rescaling plastic? A documentary about the blatant obvious. The International Space Station is leaking. Yikes. That can't be good.
Getting out into the environment.
Big spills do happen, like all the time. But the persistent problem isn't some big accident that would make the news, but just putting these things out as regular standard operating procedure, part of their daily routine. Jace's Nurdle Patrol puts out a map that shows where citizen researchers are finding this stuff, and it really illuminates how it's happening.
Yeah, so what we have found over the years of collecting this data is there's a close correlation with where plastic is manufactured to where the higher concentrations are.
You also see higher concentrations around train tracks. Nurdles are transported by train, and they just fall off along the route.
Unfortunately, with these pellets, it's this chronic everyday problem that at the manufacturing site, a little bit falls on the ground. During transportation, a little falls on the ground. During distributing, a little falls on the ground. When it rains, it really just accumulates into the rivers, washes out into the oceans, and washes back up. And there is no body to clean it up.
To make things worse, these things aren't considered hazardous waste by the government. And that's an important distinction. They're barely regulated, meaning companies can kind of do whatever they want.
These pellets are lightweight. They put them on the very top and on the outside of shipping container boats. And so if they were considered hazardous material, they would actually have to put those containers in the hull of the boat. If there's a spill, they would have to document how many were lost, and they would also have to log where they dispose of them. So it would change basically everything about the way that they currently handle the plastic pellets.
In 2022, Texas regulators plan to start treating nurdles as the dangerous pollution they are, but industry lobbyists stop them. So let's look at some industry hotspots on Jace's map.
And so if we click on here, you can see over 16,000 nurdles by one person for a 10-minute period.
16,000. So we were looking at 200 before. That's 16,000.
Right. And so since this is right
wild.
outside Formosa Plastics, it's easy to see why the concentrations would be so high right here.
16,000 nurdles in 10 minutes. That's a lot of nurdles. So I headed to Point Comfort, Texas, where Formosa Plastics is headquartered, to find out more. My contact there was Diane Wilson, a local of nearby Seadrift, Texas, and fourth-generation commercial fisherwoman who's been standing up for local communities against their polluters for decades.
Chairman Stoops. Chairman back. Ranking members back.
This is what it looks like in the marshes. This is what it looks like for the fishermen down there. And I think you need to be charged with a crime. You need to go to jail. As a matter of fact, I've got some chains and I'm going to assess the rest. Ma'am.
If you go downtown Seadrift, we used to have steelworks. We had marine supplies.
All that business is gone.
Yes,
Paradigm
it's
of
gone.
absolute control. And that's why we're just out here doing simple things, pointing out that we're meant to be in nature and be natural. And this is where we find the source.
Everything behind you looks plastic. So what's the point? Go on. What is your point? So, because I have there's no choice but to constantly, what's the real cause? The real cause is corporations, dude. They're literally explaining this to you. The real cause is corporations.
Is that linked directly to Formosa moving in?
Well, it's all of the plants, but Formosa has made a big impact.
Formosa, a Taiwanese company, has had a presence in Texas since 1979. They fought hard to get quick approval for constructing their chemical plant near waterways. 10 years later, they fought hard to get approval to expand it, threatening to move the entire plant out of Texas if they didn't get approval tomorrow. The money's coming in, but what happened to the money that all these families, these workers, these small businesses were making?
Do you know they don't even count them? Nowhere in there is the cost of the devastation of all of these fishing communities, the fish houses, the jobs that went along with them.
The state and...
Dude, get out of here. They would not do that if they didn't, they wouldn't do that if you didn't buy it. Get the F out of here. Trying to freaking blame the individual. Trying to blame the individual for a known systemic problem is just like, dude, it's 2024. Okay, I don't have the energy for this. I don't have the energy for this to have this in perpetuity.
Federal regulatory agencies decided the impact of the plant and its expansion were
to have the same argument in perpetuity. Known troll. All right, well, I mean, he's gone anyways. There aren't alternatives, right? And like, they know this. They know this, right? Like, they know this. This is like, oh, you're complaining about the climate crisis? You drive a car, don't you? You used electricity, don't you? Yeah, man. What else are we, the individuals, supposed to do? There's nothing that you or I or anyone in this chat could individually do that would equate to what these massive corporations do with their products, their lobby power to continue to be able to do this. There's nothing that you or I or anyone in this chat could do. It's not an individual problem. It is a systemic problem. Everything upon everything is plastic, right? Like, so what are you supposed to do? And it's like, it's freaking frustrating that we still have these conversations, that people still think this way. I honestly think glass bottles are rad, but overpriced. I mean, like, when I have a chance, or when I have a choice, rather, I usually try to do that, not just because, like, it's better, like, environmentally, but it's also just, like, avoiding plastic. But, like, dude, even aluminum cans, you know that aluminum cans have a plastic lining in them? Everything has plastic in it.
minimal in comparison to what they saw as an economic boon for the area. But the only boon was a boon of plastic waste everywhere.
It was in people's swimming pools. It was on their cars, covering their cars. So it was everywhere, except it was total denial, and the state wouldn't do anything.
But there was someone who could do something. Diane. Like all of us, she kind of has the power to be a regulator herself due to one bill.
In the Clean Water Act, there is a provision that if the state or the feds are not enforcing
Yeah, and you know what?
citizen.
The Clean Water Act is constantly under attack. In fact, there's going to be a hearing for a case regarding the Clean Water Act soon. I think I just went over this. There are plastics that can be broken down easily. There are just very few companies that produce them and therefore are more expensive. Right, and there's even like, we have technology now that we actually, technically, we don't need to make single-use items out of plastic anymore. We have we have a couple of alternatives. Obviously, the biggest one that comes to mind is hemp. Hemp could be used to make these. As he commented, hemp can be used to make these sporks instead of plastic.
Can.
So Diane started collecting evidence to sue Formosa Plastics for polluting the waterways.
I found out where all of their stormwater outfalls were. And I got a kayak, and I literally discovered them myself. Nobody told me where they're at. When you have
bamboo, hemp, fiberboard, compressed paper, like any of those, then you can smoke them afterwards.
rain, everything is jammed, and it goes over, and it just goes out.
Just straight into this water.
Straight out here. Plastic was everywhere.
She allied with workers at the plant who saw firsthand how cavalier Formosa was in mishandling the leakage of vinyl chloride, a chemical used in plastic production that at high enough levels of exposure can cause cancer.
They would have maybe a 2,000-pound release, and it was like all over the yard, it's all over the cement, it's in the ditches, it's overflowing. And he says his supervisor would come in and, like, well, how much is over there? And he says, tell me what you want me to write. And they eventually reported 2 pounds. 2 pounds to the EPA. And it was over 2,000. And he said, I lied for them every time.
Diane won $50 million from Formosa, the largest ever citizen settlement, for the harms they wrought on the bay, and that money went directly to the fishing community that had been destroyed.
But when we talk about that amount of money as a punishment for Formosa, do you feel like that's enough to be a true punishment to them?
No, not
Pocket change. Basically like Aaron Brockovich. Who is that? Oh. Huh. Yeah. Nice. It's a movie about a lawsuit against a chem company. Yeah, PG&E, as Wolfgren posted here. Aaron Brockovich is an American paralegal, consumer advocate, and environmental activist who was instrumental in building a case against PG&E involving groundwater contamination in Hinckley, California. Yeah, and it was turned into a movie based on this. On chromium and hexavalent. Corporate death sentences need to be revived for some of these cases. Agreed.
For comparison, Formosa made 4,000 times that in 2019. And these companies, Formosa, Dow Chemical, Chevron, and DuPont, and Exxon, and the rest, push solutions that are distractions and half measures designed to make it look like they're doing something without really doing anything. Like Operation Clean Sweep, the entirely voluntary slate of best management practices plastic companies adopted in the 1990s to avoid pollution that even Formosa signed up for. It clearly didn't do much to stop Formosa's plastic pollution, but they sure talked about it a lot. So what does this all mean for you? Well, it could be making all of us sick. Researchers at the University of Vienna have even linked microplastic ingestion to colorectal cancer. At the same time, we're seeing more and more of that cancer among surprisingly young people. The effects on the endocrine system, that's where hormones are produced, are widely documented. And microplastics are showing up in fetuses and placenta. We have no idea what this will do to our next generations.
It's real concerning to read all these papers that come out and hear that there are microplastics in our organs. What long-term impacts is that going to have? Do we have a real answer for that yet?
Congress may finally be doing something. The Plastic Pellet-Free Waters Act was introduced to Congress in early 2024 to address the lack of EPA and state regulation on nurdles. But the plastic industry's been pushing back hard, citing the Do Nothing Clean Sweep program as evidence the regulatory changes are unnecessary. And it's important to remember it didn't have to be this way. This is all about profit. Keeping these particles out of our waterways would cost these companies more money.
Right. Microplastics and other chemicals in foods do have issues with dietary things like colitis and Crohn's disease. I mean, the adverse health effects that these microplastics have on us is, I think, I think we can safely assume that this is not good for us. And quite frankly, I don't care if these companies have to spend more money to reduce this. Gen Z has a spiked Crohn's and colitis numbers. Yikes. Now I feel like doing a showing of that movie on Saturday. Anyone down? Hey, if you want to do that, absolutely. Heck yeah.
Pumping out more and more plastic products is profitable. But is any of that
Who knows what the extent of these effects are? It's in our brains, yep.
savings getting passed on to you, or only the chemicals that are poisoning you? Even back to the Coke bottle.
Along with measuring consumer response, these tests enable Coca-Cola USA to further evaluate the technical, manufacturing, economic, environmental, and health aspects of the new container.
They push the bottle out quickly to test the environmental and health effects on real people, which is kind of what the entirety of the...
It's why I use one of the most expensive water filters on the market. I have it saved, by the way. I haven't forgotten. I see you and I are having similar problems like the transition in English. You know what's funny? My first language was Spanish. My first language was Spanish, and I was in ESOL for a few years. But really, Spanish was my first language. Now it's funny. I speak more English than I do Spanish now. At this day and age, I speak way more English for my job than I do Spanish because I'm constantly on the phone. But now I've come to the point where Spanish sometimes escapes me. Spanish sometimes escapes me. I speak both because I live here on the island.
Plastic project feels like.
Unfortunately, I think we're probably going to learn the hard way of, what the real impact is over time.
For today, plastics are changing the appearance of our everyday world. New materials will be found, new processes discovered, not by those now engaged in industry, but by you. Your new frontier.
Thank you so much for watching. If you want to support more nonprofit, independent...
You can even get away with Spanglish occasionally. Sometimes, depending. Bilingual people always impress me. I can't even speak English. All right, folks. We got a couple of headlines to run through. Virginia asked the U.S. Supreme Court to reinstate removals of 1,600 voter registrations. Virginia on Monday today asked the U.S. Supreme Court to intervene to allow the state to remove roughly about 1,600 voters from its rolls that they believe are non-citizens. Sure. The request comes after federal appeals court on Sunday unanimously upheld a federal judge's order restoring the registry. Spanish will never leave me. I always try to find a way to link words. I mean, like, my parents speak Spanish, so like I will always have to speak Spanish. And I do Spanish for my job from time to time. So, you know, it's never gonna leave me either. Cognizant. The request comes after a federal appeals court on Sunday yesterday unanimously upheld a federal judge's order restoring the registration of those 1,600 voters whom the judge said were illegally purged under an executive order by the state's Republican governor. You know, like, in this election that is going to come down to the wire, every single one of these counts, really. And Republicans know that. Republicans know that because even 1,600 voters being kicked off the rolls here, maybe another 2,000 in another state, maybe another couple hundred in a different whatever. Like, you know, death by 1,000 cuts. You know, that's how you do it. It's getting away with Mandela shying at Shiking. Xing? Is it Xing? Learning Mandarin is impressive, okay? Learning Mandarin is impressive. Even if you get like only the basics down, that's impressive. I say keep at it. I say keep at it. Governor Glenn Youngkin said he ordered the daily removals in an effort to keep non-citizens from voting, but U.S. District Judge Patricia Giles ruled late last week that Youngkin's program was illegal under federal law because it systematically purged voters during a 90-day quiet period ahead of the November election. The Justice Department and a coalition of private groups sued to block Youngkin's removal program earlier this month. They argue that the quiet period is in place to ensure that legitimate voters aren't removed from the rolls by bureaucratic error or last-minute mistake that can't be rectified in a timely manner. Youngkin said he was simply upholding a state law that requires Virginia to cancel non-citizens' registration. Whatever. Like, this is bull. This is BS. This is complete BS. Like, if you seriously had an issue with this many non-citizens registering to vote, like, you would already know. You would be aware. So this is nonsense. This is fabricated in an effort to this is used and overblown to take people's voice away. That's what this is. Then don't use it as either watching TV in both subtitles or get a PDF to audiobooks app for textbooks. Honestly, like, listening or watching TV does help. And as a add-on, listening to music, like finding music in a language that you're trying to learn, that you can vibe to, also helps with you. When you put the music on, you put the lyrics on, and it helps. So on top of watching TV, it helps if you're trying to learn a language. The ruling Sunday from 3-judge panel of the 4th U.S. Circuit of Appeals in Richmond, Virginia, sided with the judge who ordered the restoration of voters' registration. The appeals court said Virginia is wrong to assert that it is being forced to restore 1,600 non-citizens to the voter rolls. The judges found that Virginia's process for removing voters established no proof that those purged were actually non-citizens. Right, which is the whole point, right? You're like, it would be beyond me that they wouldn't catch this. If there was 1,600 non-citizen voters registering, you don't think that they would catch this by now? Of course they would. So, like, this is nonsense. The entire thing is just fabricated. State officials said any voter identified as a non-citizen was notified and given 2 weeks to dispute their disqualification before being removed. Right, which, hey, you know, if a chunk of these people never respond, then hey, you know, If they returned the form attesting to their citizenship, the registration would not be canceled. The plaintiff said that as a result of the program, a legitimate voter and citizen could have his or her registration canceled simply by checking the wrong box on a DMV form. The plaintiffs presented evidence showing that at least some of those removed were in fact citizens, which is the point. And hopefully, in the Republicans' heads, hopefully they don't contact the office in time and, oh no, in a close election like this, man, they just went through the list and picked anyone with a Hispanic name, I bet. Yeah, I had to, it's so sad that, like, I felt the need to check my own registration before going. It felt disheartening that I actually felt the need to check my registration just in case, because of how things are. A similar lawsuit, which was filed in Alabama, and a federal judge there last week ordered the state to restore the eligibility of more than 3,200 voters who have been deemed ineligible non-citizens. Testimony from state officials in the case showed that roughly 2,000 out of the 3,251 who were made inactive were actually legally registered citizens. Cool. The appeal filed to the Supreme Court on Monday by Virginia's Republican Attorney General Jason Miyares asked the High Court to intervene by Tuesday. Without any intervention, the injunction issued last week by Giles requires Virginia to notify affected voters and local registrars by Wednesday of the restoration she ordered. Miyares' filing argued that requiring Virginia to restore the voter registrations of those who have been identified as non-citizens is a violation of Virginia law and common sense. Whatever, dudes. Whatever. Definitely these elections here on the island, I'm voting Commonwealth and supporting Jesus Manuel. Virginia also argues that requiring these changes less than a week before the presidential election is bound to create confusion, creating a massive influx of work for registrars in the critical week before the election, and likely confusing non-citizens into believing that they are eligible to vote. The Fourth Circuit opinion was written by Toby Haytens, a Biden appointee, and joined by Chief Judge Albert Diaz and Judge Stephanie Thacker, both Obama appointees. A panel emphasized from the voter rolls even during the 90-day quiet period, but must do so in an individualized process rather than systematic process by relying on data transfers from the DMV. Nearly 6 million Virginians are registered to vote. Okay, so I'm just going to go over one. We can just do this really quickly. U.S. voters are concerned about post-election violence and efforts to overturn the results, which, as we just saw, is a thing that is ongoing. American voters are approaching the presidential election with deep unease about what could follow, including potential for political violence, attempts to overturn the election results, and broader implications for democracy. This is very telling that a good chunk of the population feels this, because I'm not going to lie, I feel uneasy myself. About 4 in 10 registered voters say they're extremely or very concerned about violent attempts to overturn the election results. A similar share is worried about legal efforts to do so, and about 1 in 3 voters say they're extremely or very concerned about attempts by local or state officials to stop the results from being finalized. Hey, as someone who lives in one of these states, yeah, it is concerning. The reason why I wanted to tee this up is because there's a reason for that. Last week, we went over a story about a fire in Arizona, and hundreds of ballots damaged after ballots set on fire. Ballot box, like this wasn't just a mailbox at this point. This was an actual ballot box set on fire in Washington state. Ballot boxes in Oregon and Washington were set on fire with incendiary devices earlier Monday in what authorities believe are connected incidents. The 2 arson incidents, which occurred near the Oregon-Washington border, are also believed to be connected to a third ballot box incident that occurred earlier this month in Vancouver. The first reported incident on Monday, Portland police responded to a fire at a ballot box around 3:30 a.m. Security at the Multnomah County Election Divisions responded and extinguished the fire. Our officers quickly determined there was an incendiary device that had been attached to the ballot box, and that is what ignited the fire. Portland Police Bureau spokesperson Mike Brenner said at the press conference on Monday. The Bureau's explosive disposal unit cleared that device. Fire suppressant preventing further damage and protected virtually all the ballots, though they were damaged, though 3 were damaged. Election officials will contact 3 impacted voters so that they can receive their replacement ballots. We have multiple systems and security measures in place to ensure your ballot is safe, said the Multnomah County Election Director Tim Scott. Yeah, ballot arson in this year's trend is pathetic. Stochastic terrorism. Yep. Oregon Secretary of State Lavon Griffin Valad said the limited impact of ballots shows that our systems are safe and secure. Make no mistake, an attack on a ballot box is an attack on our democracy and completely unacceptable. Whatever the motivation behind this incident, there's no justification for any attempt to disenfranchise voters. Yeah, like, just to be clear, this is a Democratic stronghold. So if this was intentional, like, to affect, people's votes, then personally, I would throw my money on this being some kind of like rogue MAGA terrorist, because it wouldn't make sense to attack a ballot box in it wouldn't make sense for a Democratic a Democratic person to attack a ballot box in a Democratic stronghold. No other ballot box or official drop sites in Multnomah County were affected. Portland Fire Investigation Unit is investigating. About a half hour later, around 4 a.m., officers in Vancouver responded to a report of a ballot box that was smoking and on fire. Officers arrived and located a suspicious device next to the box, which was on fire. The fire was extinguished and members of the Metro Explosive Disposal Unit safely collected the device. Hundreds of ballots are believed to have been damaged on Monday, though an official number has not yet been determined. Fire suppression devices are also installed in ballot drop boxes in the county, though they do not appear to have worked well. The Clark County Auditor's Office will be working to ensure impacted voters have replacement ballots in time. We take the safety of our election workers seriously and will not tolerate threats or acts of violence that seek to undermine the democratic process. I strongly denounce, said the Secretary of State Steve Hobbs, I strongly denounce any act of terror that aims to disrupt lawful and fair elections in the Washington state. Despite this incident, I have complete confidence in our county's officials' ability to keep Washington's elections safe and secure for all voters. Monday's incident, similar to an incident that occurred October 8th in Vancouver, in which a ballot box was smoking and on fire with a device next to it. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if all these were connected. We do believe the incident here is connected to the other two. Police have identified a suspect vehicle, a possible Volvo that was captured on surveillance footage. A motive remains unclear. We do know that acts like this are targeted and they are intentional. We're concerned about that intentional act that are trying to affect the election process. We're dedicated to stopping this kind of behavior, and we're working toward that today, said the Portland Assistant Chief. So somebody get me out of this world. I hear you. I hear you. Maybe we need a camera on these boxes, no doubt. Like we got this, but that's about the extent of the footage we have. I'll play a video in just a second. The FBI is also investigating the incident to determine who is responsible. Both Oregon and Washington are one of several vote-by-mail states, with ballots being returned at mail or in an official drop box. Washington also has voting centers open to accept ballots. Okay. You would think so. This is the footage that we have. In the rain, too. Man, to try to make heads or tails out of all of this must be a pain. Yep, it's a thing that happened, folks, unfortunately. The U.S. is a corrupt nation, it really is. Yep. No doubt about it. All right, folks, I got to get out of here. Thank y'all for stopping by. We'll be back tomorrow at around 5 p.m. Eastern Time. These streams are going to be a bit on the shorter end. Welcome back. No, you welcome back. We'll be back tomorrow at around 5 p.m. This week is going to be a little bit different because I am by myself. So I will be limited in my capacity. But no worries, the streams will still continue. They'll just be a little bit on the shorter end. And on Thursday, folks, don't forget, Thursday, if you join the Discord, we're gonna have like a little movie thing throughout the day. We'll see about stream on Thursday, but the movie event will still happen. Bachelor party, that's right. But you have us. True. I appreciate that. So tomorrow we'll be back 5 p.m. Eastern Time. Thank you. Yes, you can't get rid of us. Exactly. Not that easy. Thank you all for stopping by. Thank you, Heat. Thank you, Michael Hassler, for modding the chat. I appreciate you guys. Thank you for the support. Thank you for the subscription. You guys are what makes this channel grow. If you enjoy the content, don't forget to hit the follow button. All right? Don't forget to hit the follow button. I appreciate it. For those of you on YouTube, keep liking the stream. I see you. Thank you. Thank you for liking the stream. I see you. And consider subbing on YouTube. And if you want to support the channel in there are many different ways, hit up the merch store, folks. In fact, if you go to the merch store while the stream is live, you can gift merch to each other in the chat. So until October 31st, also as a side note, until October 31st, Twitch is also doing a promotion. If you sub, you get some perks on Discord. So if you're about that life, you can also do that as well. Thank you guys. Join the Discord, folks. Join the Discord, and thank you for your support. Again, we'll be back tomorrow. As always, folks, please stay safe. Excellent show. Thank you. Please stay safe. Please take care of each other. I love you all, and I hope to see you guys in the next one tomorrow. Kamala Harris isn't a real camel. No back hump. Yeah, that's kind of boo. Boo. I don't know what that was, but that didn't sound right. I don't know what that was, but that didn't sound right. Yeah, I kind of got the same vibes. I wasn't sure. But yeah, didn't pass the initial sniff test. All right, anyways, see ya. Jeez, people, I'm telling you. ADT beanie. Hang tight, folks. We're heading out in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Bye-bye.